The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Go Cowboys! This is Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw Dating, preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and broadcasting live from Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star. Now your host, Nicole Hutchison.
Nation, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Yes.
Is it Wednesday?
Welcome
Oh,
into Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys in the SWBC studio. I'm with Aisha Morrison, Jess Navarez, and Jazz Monet.
Whoa.
See what I did there?
We did.
A little razzle dazzle.
It wasn't bad, though.
It wasn't that bad.
You held that note of... again. We did it again.
I feel like I'm being personally serenaded.
Wow. I thought you were going to say personally attacked. I was like, whoa.
I'm weak.
Whoa. Not serenaded. Shots fired.
I had to bring some energy today. It was a great practice. Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was great energy at practice.
Oh,
but I mean,
good.
a lot of things going on. But aside from that, it was pretty good practice.
All things considered, like, everyone was talking in the locker room today.
For sure. Some of the updates, we'll talk about Jordan Phillips. He's now on IR, but the Cowboys have signed Carlos Watkins from the Washington practice squad, who, of course, we know Carlos Watkins. He has history here with the Cowboys. He was here in 2021 to 2022 that season. Talking about the new signing, how much does this impact this team?
I don't know. You tell us.
Yeah,
you did your little scouting.
Hey, let's talk about it. Sorry. No, I went back to watch Carlos Watkins when he was with Houston, because when he was with Arizona, he had a bicep injury, season-ending injury. So didn't get much there, and obviously didn't play until the Giants with Washington. So I went back to Houston, and some of my notes on here was that he is a monster. I literally wrote that. He plays off the edge. He's kind of a tweener guy. He played at 3-tech, also defensive end. But something that I noticed is that he really disrupts passes. So he'll jump up, be active in the passing game, and bats down balls. He has some serious power off the ball, and he reads the run really fast. So he'll hold up blocks just in time, or just to give enough time for guys to think they're going to have like a wide open running lane, but fooled you, absolutely. But no, I think that it'd be a good addition, obviously, with Jordan Phillips now on IR. So I think it'd be a good addition for this defensive line. What did y'all think?
Yeah, I talked to Osa today in the locker room.
Oh, I know he's excited. They're locker mates.
They are. He said, they asked, well,
Yeah.
when did you find out he was coming back? He said he was in the cool tub, and he said an equipment guy came up to him, said, what is his nickname?
Los.
Los is back. And he said, what? And he said, I got so excited. He said, yeah, I put him right next to your locker. So you guys are next to each other again.
I'm about to cry.
I know. I was like, that's so beautiful.
I'm sensitive.
But he pretty much said, Carlos Watkins was a very instrumental part of his rookie season in helping him kind of learn and grow that rookie season of his. So he said he's excited to have him back, and it's funny because the dynamic switched. Now he's going to be the teacher, kind of reestablishing Carlos to this new Zim scheme, and the roles have reversed. So he's really excited, really happy to have him back.
What you think, Jazz?
I mean, honestly, I had such a busy day that I just found out the news as I was driving over here.
That's fair.
It happens.
I will say that everything that you mentioned sounds like traits that could really be beneficial to the defense. So I'm I'm excited about it. I'm here for it, and I might have a few more comments tomorrow. But
they just
all
throwing
that
things
sounds
at
good.
the wall. They're throwing things at the wall right now. With Carlos Watkins, I could be wrong. I can't remember. The last year he was here, somebody got injured, and he came in. And if you hadn't had him, it would have been a rough year.
Let me see.
They brought him in last minute in preseason, I believe, when they signed him his first year. And honestly, he was kind of the savior of the interior defense at that time, because if you hadn't had him, then I think that you would have been in a far worse place. And you mentioned some of the things he can do from a pass rushing perspective, but he also is a guy that did show the capability to play the run, to stack and shed, and to be, to your point, a person that can hold up double teams. You don't have one of them right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't know how to say it in a nice way. There ain't a nice way to say it.
Here's an article from March of 2021. The last sentence of it says the tackle depth chart also includes 2020 third-round pick Neville Gallimore and 2019 second-round pick Tristan Hill, who's working his way back from a torn ACL. Is that who it was?
It might have been Gallimore. It was somebody. It was somebody.
I'm trying
else.
to remember because it sounds right, but I do remember him being a guy that surprised everybody when he came in because nobody really had expectations for what he was able to do at that point. But career best was still with the Cowboys. So he has his best play came from when he played in Dallas. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's just a tough guy too, as well. Like you're looking for some toughness on that interior, and at this point, you just
veteran leadership would be very welcomed in that room.
Baby, you just need something. Like right now,
Yeah.
this is such a glaring hole, and it's also something that it is affecting the rest of your defense. Your linebackers coming into this season, we looked at them as a position that could be a strength.
Absolutely.
Baby, they running for their lives without double teams being held up, without like responsibility being taken. Now, we'll say we did see with the DTs in particular, they was getting moved out the way for various reasons. Like, yeah, it was power on power, but it also was like he's not capable of going all the way over there and holding that block. So it's like,
And you know what's so interesting? I was talking to Osa. I said, what was the biggest thing you can kind of dwindle things down to? Was it preparation? Was it impact? Was it execution? He said, you can't have execution without preparation. So he said, I would say it's a little bit of both at that front as far as kind of, he said it goes down to their fundamentals, which I thought was interesting. When he said that, he said, when you go back and they looked at what kind of impacted everything, he said it was the fundamentals. I asked him for him personally, Osa, and Osa was speaking for Osa. He said, for me, it was my hands and my feet. He said, so this week he's really emphasizing those two things because he feels like, again, fundamentally, they weren't where they were supposed to be. And he said for him, but as a whole, it came down to fundamentals, which you always hear Mike McCarthy talk about that. So I found that very interesting that that's kind of what it was pinned on.
It was panicking.
One thing I can say about Osa is he seems to have felt that way since the beginning of the season. Even after the win against the Browns, he said something similar. Sense of urgency might not have been as apparent, but I do remember him saying that to me, that was one thing that he felt like he wanted to work on going into week 2 was making sure he was mindful of his fundamentals, hands and feet and things like that. So I guess whatever was going on became even more apparent against what the Saints were bringing to the table offensively.
Yeah. That's why I also kind of, I get the preseasons for evaluating the younger guys, the new players that you bring in, and you want to preserve your starters, you know, for the regular season. But it also is kind of like, this is why I feel, my personal opinion is I feel like starters should be playing by at least preseason 3. Like, because now you're not wasting so much time having to go back to the fundamentals in week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and start from the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Because
a lot of people feel that way, but the thing is, it's like unless other teams agree to that as well, what you're facing in the preseason isn't on the same level as what you're going to deal with in the regular season. So you might go out there as a starter and feel like, oh yeah, I'm good, and then when you face other people who are like actually the starters for these other teams, all of a sudden you realize that there's still stuff that needs to be worked on anyway. So a lot of people,
advantage. Maybe it's like just get to the fundamentals against guys that I know I'm not facing.
That's what I was about to say. Some stuff you just need to see if it works practically. Some stuff you just need to see if it works, but also too, with respect, the reigning defending champions, they play their starters in preseason.
They do.
Yeah. What makes you think that you know what the Saints played their starters in preseason?
Yeah, they did.
What makes you think this is a new defensive scheme?
Didn't the Raiders too?
Yeah.
The Raiders did
so.
too.
Yeah, because they're seeking answers.
Yeah.
And now we're in a place where this defense, like you knew you were looking for answers. Offensively, you know that there's some things, specifically your run game, your offensive line doesn't have any continuity. Like some of this stuff, like I feel I'm on the fence about it because I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't want to see nobody hurting themselves, but it's also like that's a part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if that's going to help you come into the season stronger, then that's what you need to do. But in reference to you talking about fundamentals and everything, I mean, something I wrote down looking into the Ravens offense that this defense is going to be facing is this game will test their toughness, but not their eye discipline.
Yeah.
Because their eye discipline is what a lot of it is why they got
Cowboys
their
defense.
asses. Yeah, the Cowboys
Yeah.
defense.
Yeah.
Yes, this Ravens offense is going to test their toughness because they are a powerful, coming at you type offense. But they're not going to test their eye discipline as much as the Saints did. And had them because you lose fundamentals when you're second guessing yourself. So with this game, even if they're successful, I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
But you know what's frustrating too is you go back to last week. Kubiak's whole thing is mind tricks and getting in your head like a maze, like Micah wanted to explain it after the game. That makes you lose sight of your fundamentals when you're panicking. Yeah. I mean, when you're in your own head, you're just trying to survive. You're in fight or flight mode at that point. So, I think it's interesting because the feel in the locker room, after talking to a few people, and even hearing Micah talk, there's more frustration than I think wants to be led on by everybody. And it goes all around. There's frustration with, I think, maybe the adjustment from Dan Quinn to Mike Zimmer, I think is a good way to put it. And overall, I don't think that's working in some players' favor. But I'm wondering how much of an open door policy there is for feedback and how much of it is taken from coaching. Because a game like this, I feel like, and you guys can disagree if you want, but I feel like feedback is needed from your players to figure out what the hell happened on that field. Because you can coach them so much, you can get coached so much, you can have a game plan. It was up to them to execute. And then it was up to the coach again to adjust. Where did it go wrong? So we're turning the page now, obviously, but it is one of those things that I think this loss created a bit of a tiff on the defensive side of the ball with some of the players and some of the coaches. Just because things need to change if you don't want to get your tails whooped like that again.
That's one of those elements of team culture that doesn't get discussed nearly enough. So thanks for mentioning that.
Thank you for that.
Jesus.
Sorry, y'all. All right, on the practice report, Mazi Smith leaving practice early today. Are there any worries at all with why are you shaking your head at me?
I mean, I'm just...
Are you saying with Mazi being out or about Mazi?
About Mazi, there's no, of course, update on what exactly. I'm sorry,
it was back. The practice report.
Is there any concern with Mazi possibly missing some time if he will miss some time?
Carlos Watkins has to wait 3 weeks to officially come back into the game. So the depth there is not there yet. It will be in about 3 weeks. So if you were relying on that, just the reminder, you have to wait 3 weeks to get him in. But I mean,
why are you shaking your head?
Yeah, you saying. I mean,
are there any concerns
for him?
For him, and is there any concerns with his defense?
I'm concerned about all of it. I'm concerned about him. I think I'm more concerned about Mazi than I am about the defense.
Facts. Like it's concerning for him because he's coming off the shoulder injury now. He's dealing with the back. Like
he's dealt with a lot just since he's been here.
Yeah, he just trying to exist out here, and so this is any type of setback for him. The same way we felt about Schoonmaker coming in. Any type of setback for him is kind of like a don't need that. Don't need that for your development and for you to continue to grow and get better. And so any time missed for him is not good. Anyway.
And literally when I saw the first tweet that I saw saying that he left practice, my first thought was, I hope he's all right, because the last thing he needs is to be missing time. And that pretty much sums it up for me. Now, like you mentioned, the depth isn't going to be there the way I'm sure a lot of people would like, but I guess because they have so much to figure out anyway, it's just kind of like, that's a concern, but
just a cherry on top.
Right. I'm way more concerned about Mazi as
Let me tell you something.
Well, and him being so young too, you already knew he was struggling. You know, he was down in the dumps early on. He was down in the dumps. He was in that first year, I guess, slump of understanding what it is to be an NFL player. And he pulled himself out of that. Him and Zim seemed like they had a really good plan to kind of get out of it. It seemed to be working as the confidence was growing slowly, not as fast as everybody would still like, but confidence was obviously growing in his play. And now you have something like this, and you know, maybe it's one of those things that he's still able to play through it and they just are being precautious or taking him out of practice early. But my problem is when you have somebody who's already building confidence, so your confidence is shaky, you start having to kind of adjust if your back is hurting, especially for a DT.
Oh,
you
yeah, he
need a
gonna be
good back.
compensating. That's the
And
problem.
that messes with you more. That changes your muscle memory. And then you have to kind of go back to the beginning if he starts doing those things out of bad habits. Like it's a domino effect for a young player like that. So I'm with you guys. I'm concerned for Mazi. It's upsetting for him.
Back and DT don't mix. They don't mix at all. So
Yeah.
we're just gonna hope that hope the best for him in that situation. I mean, in regard to this DT room and where it is, they are now with the Phillips situation. Watkins not gonna be able to go for 3 weeks, as you said, Jess, and Mazi
pickle.
dealing with something. They're gonna be forced to do something at this point. Like you cannot keep running out this defensive line room graded as one of the worst defensive line room last week. It's not something you can ignore. We've been talking about this. I was talking about it on the draft show. We've been talking about this since the end of last year.
Talking about it all since I got hired.
Yeah, the middle of this defense. And
Yeah.
And I understand you mentioned the frustration from maybe some of the players with the transition and stuff. You know what's making the transition harder for a Zimmer defense to be done well? The freaking DT position. Like, so much of what he does comes from your DTs being stout. And you don't have that right now. So I wonder if they're going to have to make a move and go grab somebody. At this point, how can you not? Yeah. Where are you going to find it? You can't keep getting guys off practice squads, can you? Can you? Do you?
I mean,
You
technically
can.
you
can,
but
but you still have to
should
wait
you
the
feel
3
it's
weeks.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's like just
making
because you
any
can
better.
doesn't mean you should.
But who?
Situation.
But also, who would be
exactly
an
what I'm saying.
immediate impact plug-and-play player?
Well,
like on a practice squad right at this second.
It depends. Well, yeah. Well, it depends. Like that's what the scouts are
Yeah.
for. The scouts
Yeah.
do a good job and everything. But you are going to have to, and you're going to have to do something that you don't like doing. But you might have to give up some draft capital. This upcoming draft class is heavy D tackle.
Yeah.
Maybe you say we're willing to pay for,
Yeah.
a star to come in here from another team that maybe's not that good.
Yeah.
And maybe don't see themselves being that good, and go from there. And because I think the Cowboys could find another DT in the later rounds in this upcoming draft, but you need to be trying to salvage what you have right now.
Yeah.
No,
Here's my thing.
y'all don't like it.
No. I agree with what you said, but I'm about to be a broken record and say, well, this is why you should have done it earlier.
But yeah, they
this is
should-
why you don't wait until week 3 of the season to figure out, hey, the same issue we've been having is still happening. Like, and I get you want to have confidence in your guys and draft and develop and all. I understand that, but sometimes you just know when something is going to take more time than other It was no secret Mazi was going to take time, especially coming out after shoulder surgery. There was no secret there. He was already pushed back further because of that. Why would you not continue to try to get depth? And I get that they did with Linval Joseph, and I understand, but
There were better
The
DTs.
look,
There
the
were
look on
better
my
DTs
face was
available.
not me disagreeing. The look on my face was me trying to navigate my ADHD brain. And when you started talking about them getting another defensive tackle, the first thing my mind went to was like, so should they go for a defensive tackle or running back or wide receiver? And in which order? And should they
Girl.
try
So
for all
if
that?
you-
Like, my brain
that's
is
a
just
good
like,
question.
God.
No, seriously though, like
it's the same things
that's
we've been
yeah.
talking about.
But that's
Yeah.
a good question, ladies. Like, I mean, I'm not
No,
the
you're fine.
host,
It's fine.
but I don't
No, you're good. You're good.
But that's a good question, ladies. Like, what position do you think is the most important if you are gonna have to ransom some humans off?
DT.
We gonna let that simmer.
Oh,
we gotta
I
take
didn't
our
even
first
let it.
break.
Oh, we like.
I'm
And
passionate
we
about this.
will be back with that answer. You're watching Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yay for ADHD.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like Well, like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
The 2024 Dallas Cowboys Fan of the Year. The Dallas Cowboys and Captain Morgan are celebrating extraordinary, inspiring, and original fans. Nominate yourself or the biggest Cowboys fan you know for a chance to be named the 2024 Fan of the Year and win prizes, including a trip to Super Bowl 59. Visit DallasCowboys.com/fan of the year and go Cowboys.
Why did it take so long to get that out?
Because she unsure just like everybody else.
Look. Win this week. Win this week, and I will be more go Cowboys in my read.
She gotta read it. She gotta read it, but it was probably hard for her to get it out.
We're gonna answer that question before we start breaking down this Cowboys matchup with the Ravens real fast. Who would y'all take in the draft?
What
DT,
position?
What position?
Well, no. Like if you could go get a free agent or something, not a free agent, but if you could go get a player right now, trade for a player right now, what position would be your priority?
And not specific players, just
what position? I'm asking about the position.
Yeah. Okay.
Like so, you said
I feel like
running back,
because
DT.
I was in my mind. I was like DT, running back, wide receiver, because I feel like we've talked about all those positions as like positions of need. Considering the level of need just from the outside looking in and considering how difficult it usually is to find a really good DT, I would say that should be where the search starts. Because I feel like where they are in the other rooms, like, some help is needed, but they wouldn't need somebody as high on the running back and wide receiver charts as they would on the defensive tackle chart to make a difference. So,
period.
What about you?
DT.
All right, bet.
DT. Here's my order. DT, and then DT. That's my order.
Go away.
DT.
Wow.
Did I mention
I'm gonna be different.
DT?
Yeah.
Because DT.
All right.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
I think you were clear.
It would be
Good.
It's okay.
Good. Should I say it one more time?
No.
Are you sure?
I think we heard you.
got it.
Yeah, I think they back home heard you too.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yep.
For me, it would be running back, and I say that because your inability to run the ball is stifling your offense, and if you could put up more points. It would take stress off your defense. If you could sustain drives, it would take stress off your defense. And so, and the way that defenses are playing you right now, they playing you like, we don't think you can run the ball.
But here's the question I've been asking myself.
What about it?
With the running backs, is it the running backs or is it the scheme?
Oh, no,
because it's like...
It's a mixture of both, but it is...
Those blocking assignments, they just, the way they be executed, they be looking a little sloppy.
No, it was clunky. It's clunky. Yeah. The run scheme...
I'm getting comfortable for this. I'm a soapbox.
It's a mix of both. I feel like we've said this multiple times that they haven't really given these guys opportunities to get in a rhythm. And I mean, Jess said that earlier this week. Mm-hmm. And so you can't expect them to have success when you're constantly switching out guys every down. That does not
and just
allow
doing stuff that don't play to their strengths. I'm so tired of seeing Deuce Vaughn get swallowed up. Do we have to say pause?
Well, but at what point does that mess with his confidence too as a player?
We are women.
Here's what I think. Yeah. I have a very strong feeling that this running back by committee thing is not going to last very much longer. And that's where I'm going to leave that.
Well, it shouldn't be an all-season thing in the first place.
I'm just going to say, Jazz, a very strong feeling running back by committee is going to start to fade away. Take that for what that is.
On that note,
they taking it too literally.
Anyways. Well, no.
Who said anyways?
They said
Jasmine?
raise your hand if you want the next touch. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I stand by what I said earlier this week. You cannot have a consistent run game until you define who your running back one is, and then go from there. You at least need that much because you need the rest of the league, the rest of your opponents on your schedule to start respecting whoever it is.
They're not threatened by nobody.
They're
on this
not
roster.
Well,
because how can they be?
Yeah.
And then with the offensive line too, there's something to be said about offensive lines block differently for different guys. So they can't even different tackles, they take on different angles and position themselves, even how deep they get out of their kick.
Yeah.
It sometimes is contingent on who's running the ball. And you can't be, they're running the ball, they're run blocking for so many different types of runners that I'm sure that throws off their continuity as well. There is continuity between the running back and the offensive
especially
line.
when the run is just an option in the first place. And they kind of have to figure that out as it happens.
Wow.
It's almost like are we talking about the
Running football, we
Ravens or are
love
we
that.
talking about the Cowboys? Because
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the Chiefs.
No.
Must be nice. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead.
Karma. Oh, Taylor Swift.
You know what? All right, we're gonna switch gears real quick.
No, I was only saying that not because of that, but because of the similarities with their offensive line
Is
as
ADHD
well.
contagious?
All right,
Girl,
so.
anytime I see Taylor Swift, just know there's gonna be a scene.
all right, ladies.
I will
We're
make
gonna
a
switch
scene.
gears real quick and start breaking down this Cowboys defense and Ravens offense. What do they do well? Talking about the Ravens offense. One thing that stands out. Number one thing.
Lamar Jackson.
Period.
I mean, he's 20-1 against the NFC East. I mean, it hurts. But they literally take on so much of, his running ability opens up their offense a lot.
Yeah.
And right now, their offense is, like Jess was talking about, like we were laughing before the show, like their offense is having a lot of the same problems as you. So I'll get into it more, but I'll let you guys, say your stuff out. Wait.
I think that last point you just made is why it's hard to think of like, okay, what did they really do very well? I've seen them do a couple of things well, but not necessarily consistently. Like I've seen them a couple of times like scheme up a way for Zay Flowers to get open in the red zone. Or not necessarily in the red zone, but just ways for him to creatively get open so that he's not so contested. And that's cool. That's cool to see. But there's nothing that I can think of that's just like every single time. Like even whenever you just look at things like their O-line is inconsistent. There are people who are fans of the Ravens who are not satisfied with the amount of carries that Derrick Henry is getting. There are people who are unsatisfied, including Zay Flowers, apparently, with the amount of targets he's getting. So it's like, yeah, there are things that they can do well, but like they just,
How he mad? He the most targeted.
He is the most targeted, but apparently he feel like he don't get targeted enough. You didn't see that on Twitter?
That was the whole thing.
He leading them in targets.
It's true. You are right. He is leading them in targets, but he felt like in the second half of both games he should have gotten more targets. But that's what I'm saying. Like it feels like they are still trying to figure out their offensive identity. You should take that clip and be like, who are we talking about? It feels like they are still trying to figure out their offensive identity. So there are things that they have done well, that they can do well, but will they do it well? And when will they do it well?
They probably will against the Cowboys because it just seems to happen every single time.
Let me pull up a little thing that I found today. Let me find it. They need to do well because it's already hard enough to make the playoffs when you start the season 0-2. If you start the season 0-3, there's a 3 to 4% chance you make the playoffs. And the last team to do that,
You said 3 to 4% chance.
3 to 4% chance. Last team to do that, 2018, the Texans. And that's the most recent because it just does not happen. Yeah. So this, and you always hear about like, there's no must win in September. It's September football. For the Ravens, it is, they need to throw it all out there. This needs to be their Super Bowl because you cannot start a season 0-3 and expect a very easy track back to the Super Bowl. And Christy was talking about first place schedules. They don't have an easy schedule. I mean, truly, you look ahead at what they have to face. The Cowboys might be their easiest opponent to try to pick on, considering the struggles you're having over here to try to get that win, to get your jump start to the season, and later down the line, point it back to, hey, had we not won this game, we're not making it to the playoffs. So for them, it's playoff contention.
With regard to the Ravens, like, and to your point, like I wrote in my notes, like they can't go 0-3.
They can't.
Like they are this is the
desperate.
similarities. Yeah, the similarities between the two teams. I mean, when you talk about their offensive line, they have 3 new starters as well. They have multiple rookies as well. So, and they've been rotating guys. They've been rotating guys out, trying to find out, who's the best for them. Rotating is
And
triggering.
the rotation
I
hasn't
said,
necessarily
It's
been
triggering.
helping
It's
either.
triggering.
Don't
But-
say the R word, rotation.
But to answer one thing that I think I was being facetious when I said Lamar Jackson. But one thing that they do well and that they did in the second half of that game, or I think Jazz, when you were talking about the fact that Zay Flowers felt like he didn't get enough touches in the second half for what? Because Derrick Henry, they found some success attacking the edges. And where did the Saints attack you? The edges. So
Crazy.
when you ask, like, what is one thing they do well? Well, they might have found something that they think that they can do well against the Cowboys. Because here's the thing. They're not getting big plays down the field. They're having issues with running the ball because their offensive line and obviously the Derrick Henry stuff and everything. So it's like, with all that being said, they are in a place too where it's the same as the Cowboys, where they're trying to figure out how to get explosive plays, how to get their run game going, all those things. So I could see them throwing some things out that are different. They're not that good in the red zone either right now.
Should the Cowboys be doing the same thing? Because I'm like, yeah, they can go 0-3, but can the Cowboys go 1-2?
It's much better than 0-3, girl.
Is
Not,
it,
I hope
is,
not.
Is it much better?
Well,
It is statistically.
statistically,
Yeah, it is. It's
according
far-
to these statistics, yes. Is it good? No.
Yeah.
What I will say, honestly, I don't have anything positive that they do other than like working on the edges, like Aisha had mentioned. That was what I was going to say. Something I wanted to point out that could have them playing, I guess, a little bit harder, and you can probably say this for this Cowboys team as well. John Harbaugh, under fire for his game management right now. His decisions with the challenges, especially with the new challenge rule, in losing a timeout if you lose both of your challenges, cost them this last game. So that's been something that's under fire. Something else, too, their fourth quarter play. Let's talk about it. According to John DeBow from the AP on Twitter, he had this tweet out, and I was like, favorite. John Harbaugh has the most blown double-digit leads of any coach since 1991. Within the last 5 seasons, 10 losses of a 7+ point lead in a fourth quarter, the most in the NFL, meaning they have a 70% win rate when they're up 7 points in the fourth quarter. Why is it that low?
You said 70%?
70. If they're up in the fourth quarter by 7 or more points, 70% win rate. It should not
I don't
be that
remember
low.
when they lost that game against the Raiders. I know they were up by 7, like in the third quarter at least. But actually, John Harbaugh being under fire actually made me think of like how people feel about Mike McCarthy.
That's
so I feel like that's another
Spider-Man
similarity.
meme. You
Well,
said
yeah.
that earlier.
I saw people.
Oh wait, I got to point it
The
out.
Spider-Man, the Spider-Man meme. But no, to y'all's point about the game management, there's things within their offense. They do have a new offensive coordinator, Ton Munkin, I think that
Munkin.
is his name.
Yes.
And they even so, like, they're not even using play action. Really.
No.
They're not. I'm stealing. I'm sorry. God dang.
No, that was something that I noticed is that they don't do a lot of play action. They don't disguise a lot of things. It's simple. Just they running the football. If not, they passing on third down.
Simple.
They're not doing a whole bunch of motion.
Yeah.
They're very cut and dry with how they want to play football. And really also, too, I would say maybe one of the other areas they can beat you is this defense. The Cowboys defense is going to have to rush contain. They're not going to be able to. The difference between Lamar Jackson, I think, that he's developed in his last couple of years is that he's not just scrambling off rip. He is really actively trying to pass the ball down the field, and he's deadly when he's improvising, whether he's still a running guy, but he really is trying to, and you can tell he's trying to take that step into being a passer that can stay in the pocket and stay calm. And with that, it's like, well, when you get him, you got to get him.
Yeah.
Like, the Cowboys are going to also have to tackle well when it comes to him, because that's where they're going to hurt you. And that's what can be depleting is, maybe they don't rush well on first down. Maybe they don't do any deep shots down the field. However, if he scrambles on third down, and there's first downs like that they're getting because he's moving around, I mean, that's demoralizing to a defense as well. So they're gonna have to contain as well.
I think that job might be.
My bad. Go ahead.
I think that job might be a little bit easier for them this week, just because they won't have to chase gaps like they did with New Orleans.
Oh, it was nasty.
Yeah, that got ugly. But I can also see them trying to use the Ravens, trying to use Derrick Henry a little bit more than he's been used in the past, just because of what they saw work with New Orleans. Like Derrick Henry, he hasn't had a 20-carry game yet so far, and I know it's early, but I could see this being the game where he really breaks out and Ravens fans get their wish and he finally, gets at those 20-25 carries.
My question to y'all is how, because you mentioned they're going to have to rush contain, how many opportunities will be there for them to do that? Because you talk about the Ravens offensive line, who they took a step from week 1 to week 2. They allowed 14 pressures in week 1, just 5, which again, you still don't allow that many in a game, but they allowed 5 in week 2 against the Raiders. So how much opportunity do you feel like will be there?
Well, sorry, I was just going to say, we want to go back to the R word, rotation. That has seemed to be like the core of most of their offensive problems and not finding a rhythm. And it almost seems like Harbaugh is being stubborn, if you will, about putting the right guys where they just need to stay in position. For example, their right guard, Daniel Falele. Am I saying that right?
Falele.
I wanted to make sure because I literally wrote it down in a way. Anyways, he's not a natural guard. And guess what they have him playing? Guard. And as you know, it's not that easy to plug and play a player in a position they're not comfortable in playing. What I've noticed, he's very slow getting on the ball.
He's a huge person.
He is.
He is a huge person,
but he doesn't play on his feet.
Right.
Well, that's
he gets moved so easily.
He does, and guess what? He doesn't help. He doesn't help really the run game at all, like he's supposed to be helping. Something else I've noticed too is when Harbaugh was talking about this and being questioned by the media over there of, hey, are you gonna quit rotating? Like, what's the situation? He said he's seen progress in his young players. He expected growing pains, and pretty much they're inconsistent. What you dwindle that down to, they are having a lot of communication issues among their offensive line because of these young players being young. Expected. Also, though, me being the penalty queen that I am, I had to look at this because the Ravens have the 3rd most penalties in the NFL right now. 18 penalties for 73 yards on 308 plays. Week 1, they had 7 penalties. Week 2, they had 11, 6 of which pre-snap penalties, 3 false start, 3 offensive holding. Guess who's right in the middle of that? Your young players. So if Micah, Osa, Tank want to have a feeding fest, this is going to be the game that you get those jump penalties and those pre-snap penalties to take advantage
Honestly,
of.
that's what I predicted would happen. I could see them putting Micah over there just to mess with Falele because that guy...
They can attack that right side of that offensive line. They also have, we're starting to see the reassertion of the fullback into the football position.
Girl.
And so they use their fullback to help out, like you said, was like being an extra blocker. Also, too, Mark Andrews, their tight end. He still got some wiggle to him, but he's not even being able to be used as much because he's helping out those tackles and chip in and things like that as well. They use him in motion and they bring him around just to kind of trap sometimes and just try to seal guys off and help out for the young guys. But I mean, honestly, especially too with the receiver core, you talk about Zay Flowers. Sounds like he wants the ball more, even though he's the most targeted. He's
You're not gonna get over that.
He's having a CD moment. It's okay.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine with it. But like when you look at their receiving core,
Let him cook.
They have
Not against the Cowboys, though.
they have Isaiah Likely as well, who let his presence be known in the first game. Like this is a physical guy. This is a guy that can definitely take advantage of broken coverages. So the safeties.
Yeah.
It's
are
like
gonna have to
it's
play.
likely the safeties have to play.
That one was legit.
It was actually
Thank you for your support.
But
These two over here.
but even their receiving concepts are just not that fancy. They're not trying to catch you. They're not trying to catch you running through trash. They're not doing a whole bunch. They will focus on Zay Flowers. They'll do some creative things with him and stuff. They'll get him the ball out the backfield sometimes. They'll set up screens, whatever. Yeah. But it's just kind of weird, man.
It feels like the most that they do with their receiving concepts is like they might distract you with something going to one side and be like, actually the ball's going to the middle. Like that's about as fancy as I felt like it got.
They haven't found their rhythm, though, to really establish what exactly their play calling is supposed to be looking like. I'm taking notes on their on their offensive play calling, and I'm like, weird. Bless. She's allergic to it.
Sorry, y'all.
They haven't found a rhythm. Play calling's an issue. Pass run distribution, adjustments, and counter punches is what I wrote down for what they're lacking in their offense.
I'm talking about us.
Where's the difference? I mean, truly. Also, I've noticed their packages. To your point, Jazz, it reminded me because their packages aren't playing up their guys' strengths. Yeah. So you have
I wrote that in my
your
notes.
pancake Patrick Rashard. They call him Pancake Pat. They call him Pancake Pack because he will. Your defender.
I'm screaming. Yeah,
All 300 pounds of him.
Yeah.
So
it's
All right.
interesting.
Up next, I'm starting a segment, guys. It's called Who You Got. That's up next. Stick with us on Girls Talk, Boys Talk, presented by Jigsaw, the preferred dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys. We'll be right back.
The Dickey family always mandated that the only Polish-style sausage worthy of their restaurant must have high-quality coarse ground beef and pork, rich spices, and fresh natural casings. We still serve it to this day, and it's so popular, Dickey's sausage has been named the official sausage of the Dallas Cowboys. The perfect matchup on game day. Dickey's Barbecue Pit. No one outsmokes us. Order at dickeys.com. For groups, call 866-BARBECUE.
Dibs on the ribs.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
At Jigsaw Dating, we obviously want the Cowboys to bring that sixth ring home. But to be honest, we're more focused on finding the person who will put a ring on your finger. That's why we created a dating app that reveals your face through meaningful conversation, so you can date deeper. Because it's personality that matters the most, not looks. Join Jigsaw Dating today, dating partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
Oh, that's not the right read.
My Lord.
Start again. Action. Step up your game day look with the 2024 Dallas Cowboys Nike Zoom Pegasus running shoes. Discover the ultimate comfort with its responsive cushioning and breathable mesh. Visit a pro shop near you or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com. Fanatics experience to score yours today.
That's crazy.
Can't confirm, they're pretty nice.
I was about to get some Nike Pegasus because
They're really nice.
Man.
I saw them in the pro shop, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they nice?
When my parents came, they always look for the Nike shoes, like the newest ones. And yeah, they were nice. They didn't have my parents' sizes, but they were nice. They were like looking, scoping. I was like, ooh, this is nice.
How much were they?
I didn't look. I was like, that's for you. That's for you. It's not a me problem.
Sounds pricey. It's all right. All right.
Yeah.
Who you got?
That sounds pricey.
Who you got is basically, I'm gonna give you two guys. Is basically who has the advantage.
Got it.
And I just named
We gathered
it.
that. I got that. I was following you.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Zay Flowers, Kalen Carson.
Huh?
Zay Flowers or Kaylin Carson?
Like, am I retarded?
No.
No. That hum was out loud, but in my head, I'm looking at film of like how much he lines up on the outside.
I see her having like the That's So Raven look when she's like.
I saw him on a couple of.
He does some
Raiders,
things outside,
yeah.
but it's mostly in the slots.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out like in my mind like how much is he gonna see him?
I did
But
ask Caleb
I was
about it
having the
today, so
same-
he's
Yeah.
expecting to see him a little bit more.
Okay, well thank you for that. But yeah, I would.
What I wrote, because I was thinking the same thing. I said, first thing I wrote is Zay Flowers is a problem, depending on how they use him.
Carson did say that too.
Yeah, depending on how they use him. So considering that when they do decide to be creative, it's usually involving Zay Flowers. I'm just like, if Kalen ends up having to be responsible for him, he's gonna have to be on his P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Like he
Because
can't
they motion him and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. So if Kalen does that, if he's on top of it, I think Kalen can handle it, but it's not going to be, he's going to have to earn his victory there. It's not going to be like easy. It's not a given, I don't think. But I think Kalen Carson has what it takes. It just depends on how he shows up on Sunday.
I'm about to cheat.
I like that. That's a good answer. I like that a lot.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
I think that out of all the corners you have, he mirrors really well. So I would say he's the best matchup there. But I'm going to go Zay Flowers. I'm going to go Zay Flowers.
That's not unreasonable.
Yeah, he's going to have to get through a lot of trash and things like that. It's going to require more of him than I think he's seen at this point. He's so shifty. He hasn't seen a shifty wide receiver like him. So I'm going to say.
After talking to him today about it, the thing I like about Kalen Carson, he's very neutral-minded, I guess is a good way to put it.
Sure.
He's not shaken easily.
Car
He's
jokes.
confident.
Car puns.
Even
If y'all have suggestions for a car pun, seatbelt, Carson, let me tell you, we're struggling with this. Kalen's in on it. He's like, we got to figure something out. So if y'all have any suggestions, tweet me, let me know. Anyways, after talking to him about it in the locker room today, it's interesting. For such a young player, you would expect him to be like, oh, it's Zay, like he was very much like, I mean, any receiver I face in this league is an NFL wide receiver. Like, it's the next guy I have to face, and I need to do a better job than I've been. In my mind, too, I'm thinking, Deron Bland possible return could be right around the corner. If you're Kalen Carson, you want to keep the snap count up upon the Deron Bland return. You need to have good games, and this is a good defining game for him to have, maybe that decision factor of, hey, as Deron's ramping up, we keep you in a little bit more snap count-wise. I think that's stuff you start thinking about looking ahead. I'm going to give it to Kalen. I liked his confidence today when talking about it in the locker room and not being shaken and afraid of a big name who's putting up good numbers and has good tape on him.
That'll definitely help.
Yeah.
For sure.
He needs the confidence.
All right, Derrick Henry or this Cowboys defensive line?
Girl, why are you doing that?
I'm sorry.
Are they going to give him the ball? I mean, maybe. Like,
They haven't been.
at this point, they haven't been. But
I'm not even going to say that. I'm not even going to say
no,
that.
they're going to because they looking at.
I'm not even going to start.
Honestly, they might come out here and throw you for a loop and have Justice Hill run all over you because they see that your defense struggles with stopping the run. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just decide to go heavy run. So
Who you got?
They need to.
Who you got?
At this point, I gotta say Derrick Henry. I can't say our defense. What tangible evidence do I have?
I'm gonna say this. I do think Derrick Henry would win versus our line. So I agree with Aisha on that. But I don't think that necessarily means their team will be successful against our team.
That's fair.
But
you cheating. That wasn't right.
Yeah, you can't find scapegoats.
I ain't cheating that much today.
I'm not cheating. I'm adding context to
Depth
my
to the
answer.
conversation.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, wait.
Oh, go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate to you, girl. I'm going to say the D-line because if you have an embarrassing showing like that again, what's happening for the rest of this very long season ahead?
That is very fair.
You have no choice but to shut down Derrick Henry if you want to be established as having a good run defense, especially after last week.
Yeah, but the Ravens have no choice.
Yeah,
but
you want to be talked about as a serious run defense team that came back and look, week 2 is just a fluke. This is the week you do it against a Derrick Henry. You shut him down, you shut Lamar down, and you force Lamar to pass. That's when things get a little sloppy with the Ravens. You have no choice but to allow this team to have a slow start early, shut down the run, and go from there.
Well, they got to do it back-to-back weeks because next week they play the Giants. And I'm not counting that. Sorry. Ravens passing attack or Cowboys passing defense?
The passing defense.
Cowboys passing defense.
They need their pass rush to help them out, though.
Yeah.
If they can shut down the run, and take it
I
as
think
missions.
there'll be less confusion this week.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, yeah,
and I think that'll really help.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but that's the thing about it, and that's why I said even if they do win, I'm gonna make note of it.
They're not gonna be able to answer all the questions we have this week.
No, but I do think that we are this, and when you look at this schedule. Yeah. This part of the season is intricate. Like a lot of the teams you're playing right now are harder teams than what you're going to see at the back end of your schedule. Yeah. This is this is going to it's weird because you're right, Nicole. These guys are still adjusting and trying to figure things out. But last year you lost that San Fran game and you lost that Cardinals game early, and it screwed you. Mm-hmm. You need to take on this time of the season as seriously as you do trying to roll into the playoffs.
Yep. Yeah.
You do. So to y'all's point, they need to figure they don't have the option either. It's a lot of they ain't got options going on.
You don't want to wait on the Eagles to have to lose out the rest of their season again.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
That was too much.
We're going to end on a happy note. Real fast, what was one thing that this team did right?
Which one?
The Cowboys.
We're talking about two teams, girl.
What was one thing that the Cowboys did right in through the first 2 weeks that you want to see on Sunday?
I was like, thank you for
Hold on. I think I got something for this. Okay, so they did some things right. It's I feel terrible. It's a lot of like what I said about the Ravens earlier, where they did some things right, just not consistently. So communication throughout the defense, I feel like that was a benefit. Now, do they need to work on that? Absolutely. I believe it was it Zimmer who said that he felt like putting all that on Micah's plate might have caused some issues, and that's not the first time that happened. Y'all remember the Micah Parsons Green Dot experience? Yeah, or experiment, I guess we should call it. So, yeah.
It was an experience, too.
So, yeah, communication throughout the defense, good. They need to polish it. Same thing with getting other offensive weapons involved. We saw a couple of bright spots of that. We saw, Jalen Tolbert do a couple of cool things. There are a lot of people hoping that we get to see Flair-Noy. We see the running backs have a little bit of success. Like, we've seen a couple of good runs from Rico Dowdle. We've seen a couple of good runs from Zeke, right? So it's like they absolutely need to work on doing that more so that we don't have these situations where defenses are like, well, all they got is CeeDee Lamb, so we'll just sit on him and wait for Dak to make a mistake, right? We don't want any more of that. So, yeah, they got other people involved. We just need to do it more, be more consistent, and do it in a way that gets the Cowboys more success.
All right, go ahead.
I'm going to lean mine into week 2 specifically, and I'm going to say Luke Schoonmaker and putting the faith that they had in Luke. I showed him this tweet in the locker room today. It was from PFF, Dallas Cowboys. He ranked 7th in the receiving grade among tight ends in week 2, 8th with the targets, 5th with receptions, 10th with receiving yards, 5th in first downs. I showed him that, and I was like, have you seen this yet? And he goes, hell yeah. That was his reaction. And he said, but I still want to do more. I want to do better than that. And I asked him, how did it feel? He literally told me in the 2-minute situation that they were in, he said, it felt like I was at practice because we practiced this so much that I felt that comfortable, and I haven't felt that yet. And so for me, it's having that faith in Luke Schoonmaker that he was able to do what he needed to do. He played as good of a game as you could have hoped, and you're continuing to see that confidence that you've been waiting to see from him build. That was my good takeaway from last week that I want to continue to see roll into even when Jake returns. Whenever that is, we don't know anything for this week. I want to continue to see Schoon be built up as a legit tight end too for this team.
Shoot. I mean, they got to the red zone 3 times last week. It does say something to be able to do that and to put together drives or whatever. So I would say, them getting down into the red zone is a positive. You want them to cash it in, but the fact that they're being able to at the very least, get down there is helpful. And Brandon Aubrey's existence.
Oh, yeah.
All right, ladies. Well, this was fun.
Facts.
We will be back tomorrow here in the SWBC studio. Talking Cowboys offense and breaking down the Ravens defense. So long, Cowboys Nation. We will be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Bye.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?